Hello there, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk to community experts about their life journeys and learn from each other. And today we have a conversation with Jason Baum, a dad who loves jokes, a DJ, a podcast and radio show host, hot sauce supplier, an experienced community builder, and community director. So, hello, Jason.
Hello, Yuri. Thanks so much for having me on.
Super happy to have you. And tell me about your holiday wear collection. What is the
Yeah.
story behind it?
Well, first of all, I'm wearing one that you made for me. Thank you so much for that. I don't even know how it started. I think it started oh gosh, I think I've been doing it for almost a decade now.
Wow.
Where I just from Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, until Christmas, I am decked out in full head to tail Christmas gear, whether it's Christmas sweaters, t-shirt, hat, pajama pants, you name it, socks. I got it all. The only thing I don't have is shoes, so I'm gonna have to look into that one. But yeah, I don't really know why. There's really no reason other than I just love the season and I get so excited, and I just want to wear it proudly. So I'm not allowed to decorate the house until that time. So it's sort of an explosion of Christmas all at once.
And what was the first piece of your collection?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I've always worn this ugly sweater before it was trendy to wear an ugly sweater. And it's actually a very nice ugly sweater.
Very
Falling
nice
apart
ugly
now.
sweater.
Yeah, very
Okay.
nice ugly sweater. And I've had it for years, and I always wore it just kind of as tradition on Christmas Eve. So I guess I've been doing it for a very long time. And then I just decided to start adding more. And over time, people would get them for me, and the collection grew. And now it is its own dedicated closet that is actually somewhat of a larger closet than my own normal closet, because it's just it's filling up. I've got maybe 50 days worth of Christmas gear for 30 days.
Just 315 more. and,
That's right.
and
Oh
you're
my
ready for a
gosh.
Christmas year, you know?
Don't give me that goal. My
You
wife will
never know,
kill
you
you.
know? Okay, we won't tell her.
Yes.
And, uh, did your parents ask you to wear Christmas clothes, or did you like it just do it by yourself?
No, this was just something that I wanted to do for myself. This just makes me happy. It's one of those things that I think everybody has their thing that makes them happy. This was just my thing.
And you've recently posted that your daughter asked you if Santa is real. So how did you pass this test?
Oof, that's a tough one. Yeah, my recommendation to every parent out there is answer that question with, what do you think?
Exactly, that's how it works. Okay.
And you know what she said? I think he's real. Fantastic. So it's over. So it's over then. And it's like, well, then he must be real. But then they repeat the questions, and sometimes he's real, sometimes he's not real. We just go with wherever she's at the moment.
Okay. You kind of explain the whole sales thing,
Yeah. I want to be honest with her. Like, it's hard. It's like you try to be honest. And so that's why just asking her what she thinks, it's like, at that point, it's whatever she believes.
Yeah, exactly. My kid is 11 and we still believe in it. So
Oh, wow. I hope so. I hope
it's
so. I think it's magical.
it's hard, it's
Yeah.
tough, and I don't know what will happen soon, but we'll see.
I was
So
sad when she first asked, because she was 5, just turned 5 in November. And I thought that was a little early to be asking those questions. It started with, how does Santa get in the house if we don't have a chimney?
okay.
Which is like, I wasn't level for that. I wasn't ready for that level of questioning. So I just said, I don't know, let's find out what Google said.
Did you really Googled it?
I did. I Googled it with her. We Googled it together.
And what was the answer?
It says there's a magical key that he uses to get
Okay.
in the house. So
Magic
that's the
key.
answer, parents.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good hint. Okay, thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
Who are my parents? Jeez. Okay. Well, my mom, her name is Janet, and she was a longtime corporate philanthropist and nonprofit organizer. She worked in nonprofit for pretty much most of her career. And honestly, I think that's where I learned that about community. She was always a community builder.
Hmm.
So, quite frankly, I wouldn't even know that some of this even was a thing unless I had someone in the family who was doing it. And she would rally people. I mean, she actually now she's retired. She lives in Florida because that's like a rule up here is that if you're from the New York area, you must retire and go to Florida, I think. And so she's been there for a few years. And now she had just told me she started a club down there for people who want to play
Okay.
this game. And so they meet weekly. So she's still organizing. And then my father was he passed away 2 years ago. His name's Doug, and he as a therapist. And so the combination of both like this nonprofit community building person and a therapist was like the perfect combination for me to become, I think, who I am.
I can only imagine that. Like, what did you learn from them? Like, what do you use on your, let's say, daily basis?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I guess from my father, I picked up a lot of the therapist traits. My grandfather was also a therapist. Ironically, that was my mom's dad was the he was a psychologist. My dad was a therapist, and I just learned listening. I think through him, he was the best listener I ever knew, and also just validator. He listened without any sort of opinions, and even though he had them, he was the kind of person that you could tell anything and he wasn't going to judge you. And
Yeah.
I think
Wow.
that trait's super important for community builders.
Yeah, and
Um,
I can only imagine growing up when you can tell anything and you won't be judged.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting because when I was 5, my parents divorced, and so I really grew up with my mom.
Hmm.
Um, and we saw my dad on like weekends and on Fridays and stuff. And but I'll be honest, like any time that we had some like really deep issues, my mom, we could talk to my mom, but she's the type of person who'd give advice. And
Hmm.
a lot of times she had really good advice, but my dad would listen with no advice. And sometimes, especially as we became teenagers and adults, that's the kind of that's the type of person that you want to talk to sometimes to kind of not even get feedback, just to dish, because you need that sometimes to unload. And not that he was my therapist by any means, but he was just someone I could talk to and was helpful a lot of times when weighing jobs. To just be like, what do you feel like in your heart? Like just throwing it back on me to make the decision, which I think is helpful.
How did you feel after those conversations?
Oh, anytime someone validates you and anytime that someone like truly hears what you're saying, I think that's very powerful. And I try to when I talk to my teams, I take that approach to management. I take that approach to the communities that I've built. I take that approach on a day-to-day basis. I really try, and I think it's one of the hardest things that we can do as humans
Yeah.
because we have our lens, and it's really difficult to see the world through other people's lenses. But in a role of community builders, we have to see the world through other people's lenses. We have no choice, or you're not going to do it well. Um, so I think that's one of the most important traits that I was able to pick up.
Yeah. And do you always listen to people or give an advice from time to time?
Oh, I mean, you always fall into the trap, I think, of giving advice if you've had that experience. Um, I think there's good and bad that comes with that. I think giving advice, but then also putting it back on the individual who you're giving it to sort of come up with their own answers. Like my dad's answer to me, like was, well, how do you feel about that? Like, what would you do? What,
Yeah, yeah.
if you were to follow your gut, what your gut say? What's your first instinct? Trying to really dig for the answers from them.
Yeah, just how you've done with your daughter. Yes, like What do
try
you
it. Yeah,
think?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
And how come you are not a therapist? Okay, let's say professional therapist. We all know that community builders are therapists, but nobody tells about that.
This is true. Why am I not a therapist? Well, like I said, my grandfather was a therapist and my dad was a therapist. So I think I grew up being analyzed.
Okay.
But I did minor in it. And I was going to go into therapy. I really was considering it as a path for me. And it got into starting to get into biology and stuff I wasn't really interested in. I was more interested in the people and hearing people's stories and talking to them and giving advice, getting advice, just that free flow of kind of how this is really helpful. I think for me, I thrive from that. But therapy isn't really about giving advice, and therapy is not really about the free flow of information back and forth.
Mhm.
It's really meant for the person who's there to just have a vehicle to get their thoughts out, right? And kind of
Okay.
throw it on someone who's an impartial listener. And so I didn't really want to do that. I was afraid of burnout. I was afraid of, I wanted to build a family, and I was afraid of the time commitments because I saw what that did to my dad and to my grandfather. So it just wasn't an option for me, I felt like.
Do you take things personally if somebody shares with you?
I think it's normal to take things personally, but I try not to immediately go to reactions. Like with your kids, I think that's the best example. Your kids could tell you some horrible stuff
Yeah.
that
And
you
you
just
like,
have to take sometimes. Like kids could be like, "You're the worst dad in the world," and then 2 seconds later, "Daddy, I love you." And it's like this back and forth. And man, if you took everything seriously, and not to take it seriously, you should take things seriously. But if you like took it to heart, if you took offense to everything a kid said, oh my gosh, you'd be a very angry person. So I
totally.
try very hard not to.
And if somebody shares with you a personal story, do you try to fit yourself in their boots?
Oh, always. Yeah, I always try to see where they're coming from and what they're experiencing, and I think I can relate to people quite a bit. I can understand it. um, Empathy, I think, is one of the most important traits you can have as a human being, let alone as a community builder. And my own daughter just kind of has that personality. I already see that she's like a natural empath. Someone gets hurt and she cries. Someone,
Okay. Yeah,
she
yeah.
immediately feels their pain. And I actually think that's a good personality trait.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for, like helping people, but how does it feel for you? Isn't it hurt you?
Yeah, I mean, you can feel other people's pain,
Yeah.
and sometimes that takes you to depths. Like I said, I lost my father 2 years ago. It was during COVID. I wasn't allowed to see him in the hospital until he was like in hospice, and he wasn't responsive. So I never really got to say goodbye to him. I mean, it was pretty horrible situation. He had a brain tumor. He didn't die from COVID.
Yeah.
But I related to a lot of the people who lost people with COVID, because quite frankly, whether people were in the hospital with COVID or not, they were in the hospital during that time and you couldn't go visit them. And so it was a similar situation, which case those people had to, and sorry, this gets deep, but those people had to die alone. And I immediately was thinking about how horrible that it must be for him. And I wasn't really thinking about myself. And I think in a lot of cases we can make it about ourselves. And I think processing that was difficult because I was really trying to understand it from his point of view. And yeah, it can make it hard it makes the hurt sometimes sometimes you can feel that hurt even more.
Yeah, and also feeling this guilt,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Tremendous.
yeah. Yeah, no words, just no words. And I totally get what you're talking about, and yeah,
But
it's
from that gives
hard.
us purpose. From that comes, the last one of the last stages of grief, right, is purpose, finding purpose from it. And I turned it around, and I actually devoted my time right after the vaccine had just come out, shortly after he passed,
Yeah.
and people couldn't get appointments. And I am pretty good with computers, and so I was able to, ironically, the people who needed the appointments the most were the ones who are not the best at getting appointments, if you get my drift, online. And so
Yeah.
I was able to do that pretty easily, and I was able to get appointments for other people. So I would have people basically sign up and tell me their situation, and I would get appointments for them, and that's kind of what I put my time into.
Was it some kind of website or what it was?
Yeah, I mean, you could randomly regenerate a website over and over again until it selected the times and came up, and then you just pop them in and make sure
Okay.
that, yeah.
And you told that you are pretty good with computers. So when did your computer journey started?
Uh, well, I mean, we grew up with the Mac in every school program here, and so I was lucky enough to get on the old school Mac. I guess the old school Macs, learn how to type with the little Apple, with the little turtle that would go across, and Oregon Trail and all that stuff. But I was always interested in computers. My dad was obsessed. He was like an Apple fanatic. He was in all the early Apple communities. And so he got me into it. He got me fixed on it as well. And so I was able, he had the computers early on. And so they were always around me. Um, but I kind of went there was two paths I feel like you could go once computers were a legit thing in every home. And it was either you could go into programming,
Hmm.
or you could go the route I did, which was like, I'm going to make prank phone calls over the dial-up internet with my friends. And I never really took it seriously, unfortunately. It was always just a hobby or fun, and I regretted that now. But I'm making up for it. Making up for it.
What was the funniest prank phone call you made it?
Funniest prank phone call that we made. Um, well, back then, you really would just call through the dial-up, and if someone picked up, all they would hear is on the other end.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could, so that was the extent of it. I mean, when you're the age I was, I mean, that was funny to us. But yeah, I don't know. The funniest prank call we ever made was like a Hooked on Phonics call. We ordered a pizza through Hooked on Phonics, and then started ordering different letters as toppings. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's funny. I have a weird sense of humor.
Okay, so let's move more to yourself. And what what is the first memory of your childhood that comes to your mind right now? Except for making prank calls, you know.
Yeah, first memory from childhood. Um, I remember the zoo. For some reason, that's coming into mind. We used to go to the zoo quite a bit. Um, and I remember riding the train, and you could see the animals. And that's just a really good memory that for whatever reason just popped in my head.
So what did you like more, train or animals?
Back then, probably the train.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's still true for kids. Like, I don't know about yours, but my daughter, like, whenever we go somewhere, she wants to ride the train.
Yeah, exactly. Train, cars,
Yeah.
this. But yeah, animals are always there and train, like train. And describe Jason the kid playing Contra.
That was my cousin got us into Contra, but again, my dad was the techie. So my dad I remember the day my dad brought home Game Boy when Game Boy came out. Like, I remember that day so vividly. What was that? Like, I think it was like 1989 or something. And I remember the day he came home with it. He bought it for himself. He didn't buy it for
Exactly.
us. He bought it for himself, but we all would take turns buying. But Contra was for the regular Nintendo, and my cousin got us into that when he would come visit, and we would just be playing that all hours. That was the one that Excite Bike, all those classic, of course, Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers, but Contra was the most fun, I think, back then.
Yeah, there were a lot of you could choose a lot of different weapons, and sometimes you have like this good upgrade. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
something like, oh my God, why did I take this upgrade? I had it like much better before. So yeah, did you finish the game?
I don't know if we ever beat the game. I'm sure we did. I
Okay.
actually just sent him, while we're talking about video games, I just sent him a message because this past New Year's, I forgot what anniversary it was of 007, and the 007 GoldenEye game. I remember playing that on New Year's when it came out. Oh my gosh, the entire night. I mean, we stayed up the whole night playing GoldenEye, and I just remember being slapped to death. Like, I don't know if you ever play that game, but like, you don't even need a weapon. You just need to sneak up on someone and like karate chop them in the
Okay.
back.
Yeah, and you played those games with your brother, yes?
With my brother, with my cousin. Yeah.
So you had the whole team all
Yes.
together.
Yes. We were inseparable when I was growing up. Yeah.
What kind of brother are you?
Oh. Now, a much better one than when I was a kid. So
Okay.
I'm an older brother, and I think
Okay.
I would never admit this publicly, which I guess I'm doing now. But I think the older kid so the younger kid gets away with more for sure. But I think younger kids are sort of bullied by the older kids sometimes, and we definitely went through that phase. I will admit, I'm not proud of it, but I think most go through that sort of dynamic. But my brother and I are 3 years apart, so there were periods of our life where we were extremely close, and then periods where we were not. And luckily now we are.
Yeah, you're not the first person who telling me this already, because once you're happy, then you start receiving like, oh my God, they having better stuff than me. Like, let's find out who is the really better one. And then like you overgrow this stuff and like things getting back to
We
normal.
played sports, and that's what would be a lot of the fights would be over sports, or he would like the same things I did, and that bothered me. Like, I found a band, and now all of a sudden he's like got the poster on the wall. I'm like, that was my band.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's kind of nice that you have a follower. So, and do you meet frequently now?
My brother and I.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, actually, you could say he's my first follower. Unfortunately, he's fortunately for him, I mean, he's in North Carolina, and I'm in New Jersey, so there's some distance. But he comes in often. I'm going to try to get out there too. So we try to see each other a few times a year.
Hmm.
But yeah, the distance plays in. I have a niece, his daughter, and she's wonderful, and I have gotten to see her grow up, but albeit from a distance. I would say it's much easier now. So my cousin, when we were growing up, originally had been living in Texas and didn't move here until he was like 10. But like, he was non-existent to us except for like maybe once a year, maybe if we got to see him. But now we have FaceTime. So we're FaceTiming with them all the time. So my daughter gets to see her cousin all the time. It's just she doesn't get to see her in person all the time. So when they get together in person, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so strange.
And what kind of uncle are you?
Oh, I'm the funny uncle. I'm the funkle. I'm
Uncle.
Yeah, I try to make the kids laugh pretty much nonstop. I guess I'm another kid. I don't know. I can't help it. Goofball syndrome is in my genes. My dad was a goofball. His dad was a goofball. Like, try to say ridiculous dad jokes, make funny noises. That's our jam.
Yeah, I can only imagine because kids love those stuff. So it's really good for you, you know?
I think it's great. I think it makes you younger, keeps you young at heart. It's important when everything else fails you as you get older.
I keep saying that adults are just grown-up kids. So like, who cares? And you can always have fun. Why not?
Age is just a number.
Exactly. And you've recently shared that you never became so concerned about what or how often another human being ate until you became a parent. So what else you weren't concerned about until you become a parent?
Yeah, like frequency of eating and what they eat is, I don't, and like we try not to push, but I've never seen a human being not eat food and survive as long as my own child. I guess the other thing is like bathroom habits. Like you don't normally keep tabs on other people's bathroom habits, but with your kids, you kind of have to be somewhat observant of that stuff. What else?
Grow up
Yeah.
and have your own bathroom habits, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe sleep. Yeah, I feel like sometimes you could just be, as parents, you could be a little too involved with that stuff. So lately, I've been trying to separate, you know, push push back, separate a little bit from that.
Are you a serious father?
I don't think it's possible for me to be serious. I don't think it's in my genes.
I mean, like, that you are thinking about food, about bathroom time and all the
Mm.
stuff. So, given taking all this stuff, like, not only just making jokes and having fun, but like, thinking about like, do you taking it super serious or how it works for you?
No, I mean not super serious. I think you need to be aware. I think that makes you a good parent is like just being aware of the fact that like, hey, my kid hasn't eaten for like 2 days or something. But no, I'm not like serious about it. Not like eat all your food, clean your plate. Ugh, no, that's definitely not me.
5 years old, clean your plate.
Yeah, no, no. She gets like a cookie with their dinner. She gets away with murder, this kid.
Yeah. Tell me more about you being a DJ.
Yeah, so not that type of DJ. So I was on the radio. So I originally thought when I went into college, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. You know that the question, I still hate that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? I still haven't found that answer, I don't think. I think I'm
Uh,
better I getting an idea, but not no clear answer. So I wanted to go into radio, television. My dream was doing voiceover acting. So in college, I was lucky enough to go to a school that had a radio station, and it wasn't student run. It was a legit professional radio station, staffed and everything. But they had a program that would teach the students if you wanted to take it. It was an extra class, didn't count for anything. And so I learned how to edit, cut reel to reel, and I mean old school stuff. And I got to have my own show. It was a Beatles breakfast Sunday mornings, 7 a.m., which is way too early for a college student on the Sunday morning, by the way, which is why I stopped doing one of the reasons I stopped doing it. But it was, yeah, 89.7 Rowan Radio.
How did you feel that time? Like, did you feel yourself, I don't know, celebrity or something like that? Hey, I'm on the radio.
Well, it aired in the Philadelphia market, so I was like not really much of a celebrity, but no, it was cool. I like to do it. It was cool to like people could call in. So I think maybe in the whole time I was doing it over the course of like 2 years, I think maybe we had two phone calls.
At
Maybe.
7 a.m. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a few phone calls. But for the most part, it was kind of cool to just be able to play music over the air, read a commercial. I remember I got in trouble because I like flubbed a line on a dog food commercial. I'll never forget it. The director came in and was like, "How could you get that wrong?" And I was like, "Oh, this is really uplifting." But yeah, so I don't know. Radio kind of fell apart like shortly after that. Like Howard Stern left terrestrial radio, and then terrestrial radio didn't really have a purpose anymore when satellite was pretty much taking over. So I got really great advice to not go into it, and I think that was pretty solid advice.
Do you remember what those calls were about?
No, I don't remember. I would be lying if I said I did.
Yeah. And what do you like the most about hosting a podcast?
Well, it's similar to a radio show. I treat it the same way. I always wanted to have my own talk radio show, which I did not have at that in college. So I treat it like I would a talk show. And during my radio show, I actually did have more of a conversation. I had a co-host at one point, and we would
Okay.
have conversations about the music that we were hearing, which we weren't supposed to do too much of, but we did. So I just tried to keep it the same way. It's just a conversation between two people that just happens to be aired. And that's the format of the podcasts I've always done. Now I'm getting more into panel format podcasts, which are kind of fun.
So basically, you were doing podcast before it became mainstream.
Podcasts are just radio shows.
Yeah, totally. Just another way of listening to the radio.
Yeah.
I agree. And do you still have the Fire Pit Friday tradition?
Yeah. So in New Jersey, we have like 2 months out of the year when it is appropriate to be outside for a fire pit where you're not freezing.
Okay.
Because, yeah. So the ideal fire pit season is not at the moment in February, but it is coming back. It'll be here soon. And yeah, so we'll take advantage of it. We do. We even upgraded our fire pit. We've got like the smokeless one now.
Okay.
It's pretty great. Yeah, we're pretty serious fire pit people.
What do you like the most about it?
I just being able to take have an adult beverage
Okay.
outside, doing nothing other than like hanging out. You don't get too many of those moments of pure clarity and just being able to have no external noises. It's kind of nice. Or the noises of the night, being in nature. I love that. Well, if you could call where I live nature, it's not really nature here in northeastern New Jersey, right on the edge of Manhattan.
What do you like the most about lilies?
Lilies?
Yes.
Well, that is my daughter's name.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean Lily's Craft and Kitchen.
Oh, that's a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Manhattan. I believe it's on 8th or 9th Ave in Hell's Kitchen. And we love frequenting that particular location. There's 2 of them. And yeah, we always try to get out there whenever we're not parent. It's weird. I don't know. Our daughter's name's Lily. We like going there. That's really the tie. And they great drinks, great food. There you go. There's my plug for Lily's in Manhattan in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. And I believe that bar happened before your daughter. Yeah.
It did actually. Yes, it did. You're right.
Yeah,
We used to
funny
go
connection.
there. My wife used to work at the Daily Show, which it tapes in Hell's Kitchen. And so we would frequent some of those Hell's Kitchen bars and restaurants. It's really good. If you ever make it out to Manhattan, check out Hell's Kitchen. Wasn't always the best place to go, but it has really improved. It's great.
Getting better with years.
Yeah. I used to do a walking tour of Manhattan when I did voiceover work. So this is all of a sudden I feel that coming back right now. I'm having a flashback.
Tell me more about those walking tours.
I mean, it was just I would get a script and I would have to read it, and it was just basically taking people around Manhattan. And so, like when you do voice acting, sometimes I'm the type of person that needs to see what I'm talking about so I can get in the zone, so to speak. I mean, it's like kind of like acting. I acted as a kid, but voice acting is a little different because you're not actually like getting up there and doing the movements and that can get your voice in the place it needs to go. So not having any of those things, it's really tough to get to the voice that you need to be in as like a tour guide to people who would be listening to it. You buy the headphones and you put them on and then you would hear my voice when you get to Manhattan, lower Manhattan, taking you on a tour of Battery Park and all this stuff up to, to the Brooklyn Bridge and all over the place. But yeah, so I would get like Google Maps and I would like literally visually take myself through the city as I was reading the script.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, you have to do this in the studio. Yes, so
Yeah,
I,
that
I
one.
I was just wondering why don't you just go, literally through all those things and just like
Oh, bring my phone with me and like
yeah,
record for.
yeah,
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 no, it's got
yeah.
to be a little better quality than that. But
Yeah,
yes.
I see, totally. Yeah, so I feel like people can, have a piece of you, not only on your podcast show and not only like between the work hours and all the stuff, but also when they're in Manhattan. So
Yeah, I don't even know if it still exists. It was a
yeah,
very long time ago.
we have to check.
I'll have to do some digging.
Once you shared, at least I believe it was a joke, but maybe not. I woke up today utterly devastated with the realization that I'm too old to ever realistically be an Olympian. So, what more options do you miss so far?
Yeah, that was a joke. It's sort of. I guess there's truth, right? There's a truth in every jest, is the saying. But yes, I think there are certain things. I don't know if you do this. I do this. When I see how old, like I'm a big NFL fan, so football, um, very passionate about American football and basketball, and like I see the ages of people who I respect, athletes, and then how people refer to them, and they're like, he's 38, he's pretty old, he's like one of the oldest players. Do you really want to invest in someone who's 38? And like I'm 39, and I'm like, holy crap, God, this is how they talk about. They might as well just be in the home at this point. And so I don't know. I always like kind of compare myself. And even though I'm no longer an athlete and have not been an athlete for a very long time, I think about my body going through what some of those athletes' bodies go through. Like, there's no way. And my daughter started doing gymnastics recently, and the stuff that she's able to do with her body, just because she can, because she's like 5. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I will never have that opportunity again in my life. No matter how much conditioning you do, I think when you've reached a certain age, maybe you could do some, but you're never going to be at that level again. And I don't know that. So I just kind of put that piece of my hopes and dreams and desires that never really be a thing, and kind of set them aside.
And what are you getting while getting older?
Wiser, for sure. There's the answer. Well, and I don't even know if that's true. I think I'm getting experience is what I'm getting. I think we learn through experience, mistakes for sure. I make so many mistakes. And now I'm a big believer and in teaching too, and coaching up people. I now look at myself and try to view myself as a coach at this point in my career. And I just try to take that to my approach, make mistakes, because you're never going to get to that next step unless a mistake is made. And life is just built on choices. And so if you look back at all the millions, because it's got to be billions of choices that you make, at any point, you just make a different choice and you go a completely different path, which is fascinating to think about, right? All the different paths that you could take. It's like those
Yeah,
books that you could used to read,
yeah.
where it's like choose your own adventure. Life is a choose your own adventure. And so I think as we get older, we approach each choice perhaps differently than we might have chosen
Yeah.
years ago.
What do you think is the difference between coach and therapist?
A therapist, yeah. So a coach, I think, is there to give you advice, is there to sort of help you to reach the best potential that you have. Get the most out of you, find out what you're passionate about, and just push you in that direction. I think a therapist is not really there for that. They're not there to coach you up. They're there to be a sounding board. They're there to listen. They're there to be an impartial person in your life, not get invested in your life overall, but provide you assistance through validation. Not that a coach shouldn't do that too. So I think a coach brings something else to it.
I feel like parents are kind of coaches, you know?
Oh, definitely. Well, they can be for good or bad.
You never know. You never know. Because
Unfortunately, yeah, they're not impartial.
what motivates you daily?
Um, I guess professionally, what motivates me is being able to. I think it is that coach approach.
Mhm.
I think being able to make a difference in people's lives by achieving things. So I this newest position now, I've been in it for pretty much 6 months, um, at at Sauce Labs as a director of community now. I've been a director of community for a while, but this is my first time for a software company. And what motivates me is being able to build something from scratch. That's exciting alone. And then also being able to coach a team, a bigger team, and get things from people that a lot of them are not used to community. They're
Yeah.
relatively newer to community. And I think it's really fun to work with people who aren't familiar, because they didn't realize that they have all the tools that it takes. And it kind of brings me back to when I first was really understanding that community was a thing. And that, I think, is one of the most fun times that I've had in community, was when I was really learning it for the first time. That's exciting to me.
So they just now going through the same path and like, wow, really? You
Yeah.
can do
Yeah.
that in the community. Wow.
Someone once said to me, so I can get paid to go to events, connect people, hang out, and this is a job? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a job.
You know, I don't know why there is no such description in community manager and builder roles. Like, you can go talk to people, you can get paid and go to conferences, you can get all the things for free and you get paid for that. I don't know why.
I wish I knew this existed in college. I wish I knew there was, I came up through community like many do, through the association world and nonprofit. And, that's a little more of a dated and older industry. And they don't even view it as community building, but they really should, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And now, you see this. I don't know if it's a bubble. I don't know what it is that community has in the software industry, in the tech industry. And it's fascinating because it's somewhat of a newer field in tech. And yeah, it's exciting. I don't know. I just wish I wish that this was something that I could have taken in college.
Yeah. By the way, have you met already somebody who like told you they want to be a community builder from the college or something like that?
Like at the university level, like a teacher, you mean? Or
I mean who told you that they want to be a community manager right after the university? Because you know what I'm
no.
asking, like the idea that this book by Adrian Spear, Accidental Community Manager, I believe that most of nowadays community managers are accidental.
Yeah.
So have you met those people who are not accidental in
I
this?
don't think I've ever met someone who wasn't an accidental community manager. I actually think this is an industry of people who, perhaps like me, didn't know what they wanted to be when they grew up, and then
Yeah,
found out that
exactly.
this was a thing that kind of fell into it because I think community management is something you naturally do, perhaps in your own life.
Yeah.
Um, whether it's through volunteering, whether it's through whatever it is that you're doing that you don't even realize is community building. And then you find out that there's a field for it. Like I said, my mom was always in corporate philanthropy. So she was putting together programs for big corporations, but focused on, philanthropic ideas. But really what she was doing was she was creating community.
Exactly.
And so I knew it was a thing because of her. Um, that's the only reason I got into it.
What did you like the most about the In the Making Creativity Festival?
I mean, that was kind of cool. That was creating a festival from scratch again. Like it was new, it was music, it was art, it was the concept was really great. I got to work with bands. I still have the phone number for like the guitarist from Sister Hazel in my phone. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it was a one time only. We did it at Woodstock. It was a lot of fun. Not too much on that.
Okay. So you did you like it, or because you didn't continue doing it? So I'm just kind of
I mean, it was for a job. I liked working on it. It was a lot of
okay.
fun to put it together, to put a festival together, but I never really reached. I think when you're doing it for business purposes, again, I think it goes back to the reason. I think doing things intent with community is really important because we also belong to communities, right? Community managers belong to communities. We met through a community for community managers. And one of the things that you look at is the intent of the community. Why does the community exist? What is their purpose? And like, what is their end purpose? Like, are they there to sell you something? Or do they really? Because look, I work for a product community. Don't get me wrong. We're not doing it because we're like only looking to build community.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
let's be honest. But my intent is not as a community manager for this product to sell you this product. My is to build a community with an actual purpose because I want our members to be successful at their jobs. That's our intent. When you do something like this festival, I think where it failed was that the intent was not clear and
Okay.
it was purely for monetary gain.
Hmm. I
And
see.
I think people read through that. People are really smart. They sniff that stuff out.
Yeah, it's totally a great story when you do it, for purpose of the community and then you gain some profit. But otherwise, yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, you can't do it from the other way because I don't think it. I don't believe that it ever works.
You've recently shared that your daughter reviewed Disney on Ice, and she was like, "Dad, it's so amazing. It's like watching 6 movies in a row and in the dark." So, what do you like that much that it's like watching 6 movies in a row and in the dark?
Oh boy, what do I like that much?
Yes.
I could sit and watch football, like I said, sports, pretty much. Like that's my hobby. That's my passion. I've always been a sports fanatic. Um, Honestly, being a fan is a community. I'm a part of a community for a team that I really enjoy. So I could sit there and watch that stuff all day.
I saw your photo with your dad on Instagram, and it was like dad's first Jets game, and he picked a good one. How did you feel that day?
It was good. It was weird. It was like you were used to your parents taking you to your first whatever. But for me, my dad was never into sports,
Okay.
but we grew up in a family from Long Island that was very passionate about Long Island sports.
Hmm.
And uh, he would check in with each one of us about the team, and he would stay up to, he would keep up with all those teams, not because he was interested, but he would watch it or keep up with it because he knew we would want to talk about it. And so, like, to take him to his first New York Jets game was kind of cool. I was a season ticket holder, and so I brought him with me, and we had a really great day. I bought him a hat. We, like, got to sit and just hang out and watch a football game, which I used to do with them. My brother, my dad, and I would all watch the Jets every Sunday when we were kids. So it was kind of a weird circle of life moment for me.
Yeah. Did you already take your daughter to the game?
I have not. I'm trying to figure out the right timing because I don't want to leave early. So I'm trying to figure out what is the right age where she'll actually sit and watch. I think we're getting there. I think she actually watches football with me. So this is like a tradition I've passed on to her, much to my wife's chagrin, I think. but she gets the game. She watches intently. She watched 2 quarters of the Super Bowl before she had to go to sleep. So she's getting into it now. She was a very passionate Chiefs fan. So I'm
Exactly.
afraid she
Yes.
might be trading the colors because let's face it, the Jets aren't really that great. So I look, if she's going to root for someone, I'm glad she's rooting for a winner because at least one of us can be happy in this household.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. And does she give you any comments through the game? So do you have conversations through the game?
Yeah, unfortunately, like when people get hurt, she's always curious about that.
Okay.
That is definitely a topic of conversation. I just pray when I'm watching. I actually really hope every game that no one gets hurt. But like when she's watching with me, I especially hope no one gets hurt because it's very hard to explain sometimes what happens. So she'll ask about that. She'll just ask general things. She knows sort of the rules. Like she doesn't know 10 yards, but now they do of course they do the yellow line. So she knows they have to get to the yellow line and then she knows a touchdown. So she'll ask about that. She'll ask me, who should we be booing?
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. One day you spent at the toilet store. What do you remember about that day?
That's like a funny thing that I don't know, we say is like, if I don't know, it's like a bad day or a bad situation, and it's like it's like going to the toilet store or something. And so we actually went to the toilet store because we needed to buy a new toilet, and so I thought that was kind of funny, so I shared a picture, and we just redid a bathroom, and so that can be fun and painful at the same time. Shopping for a toilet, I didn't realize how many options there are for toilets, which I still really don't understand since they really serve how could you refine the toilet? And yet, here's my plug for Kohler, makes the best flush if you need like just they have the mechanism that is copyright Kohler, or patent Kohler.
Yeah, you have to be a toilet salesperson to really understand it.
I think so. Do you think that they go to school for that?
No, I can't imagine a person like telling at 5 years old, I want to be a toilet salesperson. So
Maybe there's an
know.
opportunity. Maybe like Adrian, I'll write a book, The Accidental Toilet
Salesperson.
Salesperson.
We can definitely do it using ChatGPT. So
I could do anything. You could do anything with ChatGPT.
you should give it a try,
Yeah.
What was the weirdest text you've done through ChatGPT?
The weirdest one. Well, I did a podcast on ChatGPT, so I asked it to write the intro and the outro, and it actually wrote like an amazing intro and outro using information that I had put in about the hosts and the show. It was so specific and really like engaging. I asked it to be using engaging language, and it did. And it was, it's a scary tool.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are kind of afraid of that, but still, you have to have some brain to use it.
Yeah.
Because if you are using it without a brain, nah.
It's all about the prompts. It's all about the prompts. So if you don't know how to ask it or what to ask it, it's not going to give you a great response.
I can already imagine some courses on the web, like how to ask ChatGPT correctly and all the stuff, and some like infopreneurs sharing these things. But yeah, Jason, I really wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions.
Oh,
are you ready?
I'm ready.
Wine or beer?
Beer.
T-shirt or hoodie?
Hoodie.
What are your favorite color and song?
Blue and No One Else by Weezer.
I feel like it was easy questions for you. So let's go to a little more harder one. Who do you learn from in the community world? Name just one person.
John O'Bacon.
Season 2. Okay. And name 2 people who I should definitely have this community life conversation with.
Oof.
Yes, finally, the hardest question.
This is
Finally.
tough. This is tough.
No, thank you.
Have you done one with Ilker?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I
it
missed that
counts.
episode.
It
I
counts.
missed that episode. Okay, so yeah, I gotta go listen to that one now. And Jono, if you haven't done one with him.
No, haven't. So yeah. Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Well, something that you and I had talked about is, not on air, but is you said I'm kind of a private person, and I am. I don't share a lot on social media. I do it so much for work purposes. I think a lot of us are very active on social, building our brand and, pushing what we need to push out through social for our communities, because it is a piece of it. It's not what we do. We're not social media managers, but we need to use the tool. And so for personal reasons, I like to keep myself off as much as possible, or keep it to just my professional persona on social, because I like to live my life in the real world, so to speak, and keep that for just a special group of people that are kind of in my immediate circle, and build out my personal community through those channels rather than through social.
Yeah. Have you seen The Severance?
I have, yes. It's a fascinating show.
Netflix show.
Yeah, fascinating show.
Would you like to go through this kind of procedure?
That's a good question. I've asked that very question on my own podcast. I never thought of the answer for myself. In a sort of a way, I think I am doing that, but I still have the memories.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important to have the memories, because all your experiences build who you are, like we talked about. So I think it's important to be able to have memories and have those choices in your back catalog, so you can refer to them when you go to make your next choice. So no, I guess would be the answer.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I can't, even though I would love to have some more work-life balance, still I want, those memories are making me who I am. So,
and when you're stressed out, there's other things that you could do. You don't need to like erase your memory. I think that's a little drastic.
Yeah, but it was a really great one to watch. So
yes, it was a very good show.
Yeah. Jason, thank you very much for your time. I was having this idea for a long time to ask you, and finally we are here, because from the first time I met you at Between Two Work Hours, I really enjoyed conversations with you, and you're a great person. You're a really funny person. I always laugh with you. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like being your daughter, like to smile all the time. And thank you very much for sharing this, like, many parts of your life. It was great to get to know you better.
Thank you so much, Yuri. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we did this. And I think this is by far the longest conversation you and I have had. Although if you piece together all the conversations over time, maybe we'll get to. But yeah, it was really great to talk to you. And just, we should talk where it's not an interview more often, because I hate being on this side of the table. I would like to turn it around and maybe interview you. Although I've seen you've been interviewed quite a bit now. Why not one more? But yeah, no, it was really great. I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, anytime, if you want to talk, if you have some spare time. I know it's super hard, in the real world to find those, even like 30 minutes to talk. But anyway, if you'd like to, I'm happy to do it with you. And thank you very much for your time, and see you in the community world.